working people in the world. The American economy is growing stronger. The tax relief you passed is working.
George W. Bush was born July 6, 1946, in New Haven, Connecticut. Bush had an eventful pre-presidential life. Even before the presidential campaigns, the Bush family was still very prominent in business and in politics, as his grandfather was a senator from Connecticut. The eldest of 6 children, his siblings were Robin, Neil, Marvin, Jeb, who later became the governor of Florida, and Dorothy. The Bushes moved to Houston in 1948 for George H.W. Bush, George's father, to begin a career in oil and gas. For college, George went to Yale University to study history. While at Yale, he pitched for the baseball team and played rugby. After college, Bush enlisted in the United States Air Force and was commissioned to the Texas Air National Guard. Bush spent 6 years in the military before being discharged. As of 2026, Bush is the most recent president to have spent time in the military. Once returned to normal life, he attended Harvard Business School in preparation for a successful career in the oil and gas industry, returning to Texas to do so. During his career, he became the managing owner of MLB's Texas Rangers. All these ventures grew his wealth to approximately $20 million before he ran for any political office.
There is nothing like coming off the campaign trail, working your heart out, talking about what's best for Texas, and walking into a hall full of enthusiastic Texans who are ready for a new day.
In 1995, Bush announced his intention to run for governor of Texas. Though an underdog due to his non-existent experience in politics, he had a great performance at the debates that won him the Republican nomination and allowed him to beat the Democrat incumbent Ann Richards and become the governor. Once in office, the Bush administration decided to focus on 4 things: welfare reform, tort reform, crime reduction, and education improvement. He signed a bill that would allow Texans to get permits for concealed weapons and also cut taxes by $2 billion. He also funded education on substance abuse and signed into law a bill that would eventually lead Texas to become the leading producer of wind electricity in the country. When Bush got reelected in '98, he won with a record percent of the vote, 68%. By the end of his tenure, Bush cemented himself as one of the most popular governors in Texas history. Then, in the year 2000, he made the call and ran for the most coveted office of them all, the President of the United States. He chose Dick Cheney as his running mate. Bush destroyed the competition in the Republican primaries, so it was him pitted against Al Gore for who would be the next president. The election was close for the entire time, until it came down to one state: Florida. Its 25 electoral votes would determine the victor. Bush had 246 electoral votes, and Gore had 266. When the votes were counted in Florida, Bush had won by 537 votes, winning the election. Though several recounts and high-profile court cases ensued, the verdict stayed the same. Bush won Florida, and with it, the election. He was inaugurated on January 20th, 2001. When Bush got into office, his goals were aimed at changing things in America. That all changed on September 11th of that same year.
Looks like 6, 7 floors were taken out. And there's more explosions right now. Hold on, people are running.
Hold on just a moment. We've got an explosion inside.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll tell you what's going on.
Faced with a great challenge early in his presidency, Bush demonstrated fantastic leadership. He became really popular with the American public when he visited Ground Zero on September 14th and threw the first pitch at a Yankees game a month later, which unified the country through a simple game like baseball. Bush also formed the Office of Homeland Security, which later blossomed into the Department of Homeland Security. He also made airport security tighter. Bush became the most popular president in the history of the Gallup poll post 9/11. His response to it was to declare a war on terror, ending terrorism worldwide. Though it was praised at the start, it ended up becoming a stain on his legacy as it expanded into something that was not very good. Once the 9/11 dust had settled, Bush signed the No Child Left Behind Act, aiming to improve education. Bush also issued a large tax cut, which was later halved in order to fund the war. In 2004, with Bush's approval slowly declining, he entered into a re-election with John Kerry. Again, it was really close, but ultimately Bush prevailed. Shortly after the election, Secretary of State Colin Powell resigned and Condoleezza Rice was appointed as his successor. In 2005, Saddam Hussein was being tried in Iraq for war crimes. The government was seeking the death penalty. Also in 2005, Bush signed into law an energy bill that would incentivize businesses to use renewable energy sources, though oil and gas were still represented. Then, on August 22, 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. Katrina was another stain on Bush's legacy, as the way he handled it was inadequate and a failure. Then finally, on December 30th, 2006, Saddam Hussein received capital punishment in Baghdad. In 2007, the Dow Jones reached its all-time high, but this is as good as it would get for Bush's presidency, as it would begin to fall off greatly. The economy began declining on October 30th, 2008, as the United States GDP shrunk for the first time in 17 years. In 2009, it was it. George W. Bush's presidency was over. And even though it was over, people still found a reason to criticize Bush, with their reason being the 2008 recession. Today, Bush is still massively unpopular with the American public, but the way he's viewed has changed. He receives bipartisan criticism for his presidency and leadership qualities, but he also receives bipartisan love for who he is as a person. Even Michelle Obama, a member of the Democratic Party and critic of many conservatives, describes George Bush as, quote, a kind, sweet man. Today, he's back living in Texas with his wife and making paintings, which are actually really good. Although maybe we can't use George Bush as the ideal model of a great president, maybe we can use him as something else. We can use him as proof that we can come together and admit that even though someone may think of some way, may have a different opinion than you, may have different political beliefs than you, may not be the best leader, we can all find the common good in someone.